Hello everyone, and welcome to our vibrant podcast. I'm Charlotte, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here today for our exciting episode, 5 Secret Hacks to Master English Fluency in 2025, Unconventional Tips Revealed. I'm here with my amazing podcaster guests, ready to share their personal secrets and lively stories that will help you unlock a whole new level of English fluency. We're going to share practical tips, light-hearted moments, and real-life examples, all designed to make learning English fun and accessible for everyone. So, get ready to join us on this exciting journey as we explore these 5 secret hacks together. Let's jump right into the conversation and discover how you can transform your English skills in 2025.
And it's full of really creative ideas. Yeah, it's not the typical, grammar rules and drills kind of approach. It really seems to get how our brains actually learn best.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what caught my eye too. It's all about making the learning process enjoyable. Like, who wouldn't want that? And they start off with this tip: eavesdrop like a pro.
Interesting.
I gotta admit, when I first saw that, I was a bit skeptical. Like, can you really learn a language just by, listening to random conversations?
It might sound a little strange at first, but think about it. When we're surrounded by a language, our brains naturally start to pick up on the patterns, the rhythms, little nuances that you don't always get from textbooks.
Right, like those everyday expressions, the slang, the idioms. Like that funny example they gave in pasted text. It said something like, "That coffee was so strong it woke up my ancestors."
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
You'd never find that in a textbook, right?
Exactly. And that's what I love about this approach. It's not just about the words themselves. It's about the culture, the humor, the way people actually use language in real life.
Yeah. It's like learning by osmosis almost. Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal, so what's next? Let me see. Okay, so they talk about becoming a word nerd. Now, I've always loved playing with words, but how does that translate into actual language learning?
Well, vocabulary is kind of like the building blocks of language, right? The more words you have at your disposal, the more effectively you can express yourself. You can be more precise, more nuanced, more creative.
Okay, I see what you mean. But I think sometimes people get caught up in trying to learn all these big fancy words.
Yeah, and that can be overwhelming.
Like, I remember that story in the piece where the author was trying to use the word ubiquitous, but they accidentally said rubber duckies instead.
Oh, that's a classic. It just goes to show you that mistakes are part of the process.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes those mistakes are the ones that stick with you the most, making you laugh and helping you remember the word even better.
Exactly. It's all about embracing those moments and learning from them.
All right, so we've got eavesdropping, we've got word nerding. What else is in this treasure trove of language learning tips? Oh, this one's bold. Ditch the textbook. Grab a game. I mean, I have to admit, textbooks can sometimes feel a bit like eating your vegetables.
Yeah, they're important. They give you that foundation, but they don't always get you excited about learning.
Right, exactly. And I think this is where the idea of gamified learning comes in, making it fun, engaging, something you actually look forward to.
Absolutely. It's about finding ways to tap into that intrinsic motivation, making it feel less like work and more like play.
And speaking of games, they mentioned this really cool example, a zombie-themed language app where you have to use correct grammar to survive.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of that one.
I mean, talk about high stakes.
That's a great way to keep you on your toes. And when you're having fun and you're engaged, you're way more likely to remember what you're learning.
So it's like tricking your brain into learning almost.
Well, maybe not tricking, but definitely using those positive emotions to your advantage.
Yeah, that makes sense. And there's so many other ways to gamify language learning too, right? Like interactive apps, podcasts, online games.
The options are pretty much endless these days. And the best part is you can choose what works best for you and your learning style.
Okay, so we've covered eavesdropping, word nerding, gamified learning. What else have we got here? Oh, yeah, this one's a bit unexpected. It says Zen out with English. Now, I get meditation for relaxation, but how does that tie into learning a new language?
It might seem a bit counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Hear me out. When your mind is calm and focused, you're actually more receptive to new information.
Okay, so it's like creating a peaceful space in your mind where learning can flourish.
Exactly. Meditation can help improve concentration, reduce anxiety, and that can make a huge difference when you're trying to learn something new.
And then they suggest talking to your pets in English.
I know, it sounds a little silly, but it's actually a great way to practice in a low-pressure environment.
Yeah, your dog isn't going to judge your grammar, right?
Exactly. And it gets you comfortable with using the language out loud.
I love that idea. And who knows, maybe your pet will pick up a few words of English along the way.
Maybe. You never know.
All right, so we've got eavesdropping, word nerding, gamified learning, finding our zen. This is amazing. I'm already feeling inspired to ditch those flashcards and try something new. But wait, there's more. We'll be right back after a quick.
Actually, you know what? Let's just keep going. We're on a roll here. No need to break things up.
Okay, sounds good.
This next tip is all about making English a part of your life, not just something you study.
Oh, that sounds interesting. Tell me more.
All right, so how do we actually do that? How do we weave English into our everyday lives?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is, and the great thing is, there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Right. It's about finding what works for you.
Exactly. And that's what this piece really encourages you to do, to think about your own passions, your interests, and how you can connect them to your language learning.
Okay, so it's like personalized learning, finding your own unique path. But I have to admit, I'm having a bit of trouble picturing how I do that. Like, say, with my love for baking.
Well, imagine, instead of just reading a recipe in your native language, you seek out recipes in English. Maybe you even watch cooking shows or YouTube tutorials hosted by English speakers.
Okay, so it's about finding ways to experience the language through something you already enjoy.
Exactly. It becomes less about studying and more about doing something you love, with the added bonus of learning English along the way.
Right. It's like hitting two birds with one stone.
And because you're genuinely interested in what you're doing, you're more likely to stick with it. It becomes a natural part of your life, not a chore.
It's like that point we were talking about earlier with gamified learning. If you're having fun, you're more likely to stay engaged.
Absolutely. It's about tapping into those positive emotions and making learning a more enjoyable and sustainable experience.
So if someone's really into movies, they could watch films in English, maybe with subtitles at first?
Yeah, and then as you get more comfortable, you can ditch the subtitles.
And if they love music, they could listen to English songs and try to understand the lyrics.
And even write their own songs in English.
Wow, the possibilities are endless. What about for bookworms like me? Are there any specific strategies that would work well for them?
Definitely. Start by exploring English literature that aligns with your interests. There are so many amazing books out there. Fiction, nonfiction, poetry, graphic novels, you name it.
And there are tons of resources available online and in libraries.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to start with simplified versions or books specifically designed for English language learners.
It's about finding that sweet spot, right? Challenging enough to keep you engaged, but not so difficult that you get discouraged.
Exactly. And remember, reading doesn't have to be a solitary activity. You can join book clubs or online forums to discuss what you're reading with other English speakers.
Oh, I love that idea. It's like turning reading into a social activity.
And speaking of connecting with others, the piece also talks about finding online communities related to your interests, where you can interact with English speakers from all over the world.
It's a fantastic way to immerse yourself in the language and culture, and to make new friends who share your passions.
Okay, so we've got cooking, movies, music, books, online communities. It seems like the possibilities are truly endless.
They are. It's really about making English a part of your lifestyle, not just something you study in isolation. And that brings us back to that quote from Pasted Text that we mentioned earlier. Learning English doesn't have to be a chore. It can be a hilarious, exciting, and totally rewarding adventure.
I love that quote. It perfectly captures the spirit of this approach.
It's about finding the joy in the journey and embracing the fact that learning a language is a lifelong process.
Speaking of which, I think it's time for us to move on to our final takeaway.
Oh.
And it's perhaps the most important one of all.
Okay, I'm all ears. What is it?
It's about recognizing that learning English isn't just about reaching some arbitrary endpoint of fluency. It's about embracing the journey as a lifelong adventure.
Ooh, I like that. Tell me more.
Think of it this way. The more you learn, the more you realize how much more there is to discover. Language is constantly evolving, new words are being coined, different cultures are interacting and influencing each other. It's a dynamic and ever-changing landscape.
So it's not about reaching some finish line and saying, okay, I'm done, I've learned English. It's about continuing to explore, to challenge yourself, to embrace the beauty and complexity of language throughout your life.
Exactly. It's about developing a love for language that will continue to enrich your life long after you've mastered the basics.
That's such a beautiful and inspiring thought. It's not just about learning a language, it's about opening yourself up to a whole new world of possibilities.
And who knows where that journey might lead you. It could be new friendships, career opportunities, travel adventures, or simply a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you.
I'm already feeling that sense of excitement and possibility bubbling up inside me, but I have to admit I'm still a little bit unsure about how to apply all of this amazing advice. Where do I even start?
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's something we're going to dive into right after this break.
All right, everyone, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned.
It's almost like you open up this treasure chest of ideas and you're like, whoa, where do I even begin?
Yeah, I get that feeling. It can be a bit overwhelming at first, right?
Totally. Like, I love all these ideas, but I'm still a bit lost on how to actually put them into practice.
Well, the key is to break it down, right?
Yeah.
Instead of trying to do everything at once, start by setting a small, specific goal for yourself.
Okay, so like a bite-sized goal?
Exactly. What's one thing you'd really love to be able to do in English?
That's a good question. I think for me, it would be to feel more confident when speaking. I tend to freeze up in conversations, especially with native speakers.
That's a really common feeling, actually. A lot of language learners struggle with that.
It's like my brain just goes blank, and I end up fumbling over my words.
But the good news is, it's something you can definitely work on. And there are tons of great resources and strategies out there to help you build your confidence.
Like what?
Well, have you ever considered joining a conversation group or finding a language exchange partner online?
I've thought about it, but I always get nervous about making mistakes in front of others.
I totally get that. But remember we were talking about earlier about embracing mistakes as part of the learning process. The truth is, everyone makes mistakes, even native speakers. It's how we learn and grow.
Yeah, that's true. But it's still scary sometimes.
I know, but think about it this way. When you're in a conversation group or with a language partner, everyone's there to learn and support each other.
Right, so it's a safe space to practice.
Exactly. No one's going to judge you for making a mistake. In fact, they'll probably be able to relate to how you're feeling.
Okay, that makes me feel a bit better. So it's about finding that supportive community.
Yeah. And remember, you don't have to have perfect English to participate. Even simple conversations about your day, your hobbies, your favorite foods, all of that helps you build fluency and confidence.
So it's like taking baby steps.
Exactly. And those baby steps eventually add up to big leaps forward.
That's encouraging.
And, speaking of taking those small steps, what's one thing you could do today to inject a bit more joy into your English learning?
Ooh, that's a good challenge. Maybe I could try listening to an English podcast while I'm cooking dinner.
Perfect. See, you're already on your way.
Or maybe I could write a funny little poem in English just for fun.
That's a great idea. Remember, it's all about finding what works for you and making sure you're enjoying the process.
I'm starting to see that learning English doesn't have to be this big, scary thing.
It doesn't. It can be fun, exciting, and even a little bit silly sometimes.
Exactly. It's about embracing the adventure and not taking yourself too seriously.
And who knows, maybe you'll even discover some hidden talents or passions along the way.
Ooh, I like that idea. Like, maybe I'll uncover my inner Shakespeare.
Maybe. Or maybe you'll become a world-famous English-speaking baker.
A baker who can write haikus in English.
Now that's a winning combination.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground today. From eavesdropping to word nerding to finding our zen with English.
And we've talked about how to make English a part of your life, not just something you study.
And most importantly, we've learned that learning English can be fun.
Absolutely. It's about finding what sparks your joy and using that to fuel your learning journey.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with this thought. What's one small, playful step you can take today to make your English learning a little more enjoyable?
It could be anything from watching a funny English language video to singing along to your favorite English song to simply smiling and saying hello to someone in English.
The possibilities are endless.
So go out there and explore, experiment, and have fun with it.
And remember, every step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to your language learning goals.
Keep up the amazing work, everyone. We're so proud of you.
And thanks for joining us on this deep dive. I'm starting to see it now. It's like, yeah, it's this whole journey. But you got to break it down, right?
Yeah, exactly. You don't climb a mountain in one giant leap.
You got to take it one step at a time. So instead of trying to master the entire English language all at once, maybe I should focus on a smaller goal first.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what's one thing you really wish you could do confidently in English?
Let me think.
Could be anything. Like having a conversation with a native speaker without freaking out. Or reading a novel in English without needing to look up every other word.
Actually, speaking is my biggest hurdle. I really want to feel more comfortable just chatting in English.
I hear you. That's a super common goal. And it's definitely within reach.
Yeah. But how do I get over that fear of messing up.
Well, remember how we were talking about how mistakes are actually good? They help you learn and improve?
Yeah, but it's still nerve-wracking to make mistakes, especially in front of other people.
Totally understand that. And that's why finding a supportive environment is so important. Like, have you thought about joining a conversation group?
I have, but I always chicken out. I'm just so self-conscious.
I get it, but the cool thing about conversation groups is that everyone's there for the same reason, right?
Yeah.
They all want to practice their English. And they're all going to make mistakes. It's part of it.
True, so it's like a judgment-free zone.
Exactly. And you don't have to be fluent to participate. Just start with simple conversations.
That actually sounds kind of fun.
It is. And it's a great way to build up your confidence gradually.
So maybe I'll give that a shot. But even before that, maybe I could try, chatting with the barista at my coffee shop in English.
There you go. See?
Or maybe leave a comment on an English blog.
Those are all awesome ideas. Every little bit counts.
So the main takeaway is to just start somewhere, right?
Yep. Take those baby steps and celebrate each small victory along the way.
I'm really starting to get it now. It's not about being perfect. It's about the process and finding joy in the journey, right?
Exactly. And never losing sight of why you started learning English in the first place.
Because it opens up a whole world of possibilities, right?
Exactly. New friendships, new experiences, new ways of seeing the world.
I'm feeling so much more inspired and motivated now. This deep dive has been a game changer for me.
I'm so glad to hear that. Remember, learning English should be a fun and rewarding adventure.
And it doesn't have to be this big, daunting task. It's about finding those little moments of joy, those sparks of connection.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with this final thought. What's one small, playful step you can take today to add a little fun to your English learning?
Maybe I'll finally try writing that haiku about pizza.
Awesome. Or maybe you'll dust off that English novel you've been meaning to read.
Or maybe I'll just smile and say hello to a stranger in English.
Whatever it is, embrace it, have fun with it, and don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Because every step, no matter how small, brings you closer to your goals.
Keep exploring, keep playing, and keep that love for language alive.
Thanks for joining us on this amazing deep dive, everyone.
Happy learning!